Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
into Process Analytical Technology, or
Oh,
PIT,
yeah.
and we'll be looking at
Okay.
how it's really changing how natural products are
That's true.
manufactured, and specifically we're going to be
Mhm.
honing in on how it's used with cannabinoids
Got it.
and psychedelics,
Right.
and we'll be looking at how real-time quality control
Mm-hmm.
is being used to make sure these botanical extracts,
Okay.
which, as we know, can be a little finicky
Right, you
sometimes,
get definite.
how to make sure the quality is super consistent.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about some pretty cool tools
Okay.
like NIR, Raman spectroscopy, and inline chromatography,
I.
all of which
Oh,
are
yeah.
working to make sure we get great quality products.
Mm.
And we'll also be talking about how using these tools
Yeah.
can save manufacturers money, reduce waste,
Okay.
and make regulators happy.
Well, who doesn't love that?
Exactly. So
Yeah. This is
what's really fascinating about PIA is this ability
This is gonna be good.
to get away from those traditional quality control methods.
Right. Those can be a pain.
So instead of waiting until the end of the production
Mm-hmm.
to test the batch, PI lets you monitor it continuously,
Yeah, in real time.
like as it's being made.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is really important when you're talking about
Yeah. Especially
natural products like cannabinoids and psychedelics,
Absolutely.
because we all know the starting materials can be
Yeah, they're all over the place.
a little bit variable.
Absolutely.
So if you were producing medicine, wouldn't you want to know if there was a problem?
Oh, definitely.
Right away.
Yeah, before you ruin the whole batch.
Right. Exactly.
That
So
just makes sense.
that's why we're talking about this.
Yeah. And that's where those
yeah.
tools like NIR and Raman spectroscopy come in.
Tell me more.
They give you a way to see what's in the material as it's being processed without having to stop everything.
Interesting. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay, let's break it down for a second.
Yeah.
I'm pretty familiar with NIR,
Yeah.
but for somebody who doesn't know much about it,
Right.
how does it actually analyze these botanical extracts?
Well, imagine shining a light through a sample,
Okay.
and then you can see which wavelengths are absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
Each molecule absorbs light differently.
Oh,
So you end up with like a unique spectral signature.
oh, interesting.
NIR uses this to identify and measure
Okay.
the components in the extract.
Got it.
Like how much of a cannabinoid or psychedelic compound is in there.
Okay.
It's incredibly precise.
Like getting a fingerprint of the extract
Yeah, you could say that.
at any point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty wild.
It's pretty amazing technology.
But what about Raman spectroscopy?
Okay.
I know it also uses light,
Yeah.
but how's it different from NIR?
Well, they both use light.
Okay.
But Raman focuses on the light that bounces back rather than the light that gets absorbed.
Okay.
It's kind of like
I see.
NIR is looking at the shadows from the molecules,
Interesting.
and Raman's studying the reflections.
Oh, okay.
So Raman gives you a more detailed fingerprint.
Okay.
It can identify specific molecules and their structures, which is really helpful for making sure your final product is pure.
Like you want to make sure you have
least
that
we- yeah.
exact psychedelic.
You don't want something close,
Right.
but not quite.
Right. And nothing else in there.
Yeah,
So Raman is kind of like the
you got it.
molecular detective on the case.
That's a good way to put it.
It's searching for clues.
Yep, that's very cool.
And then when you combine these with inline chromatography,
Okay.
which separates out the different parts
Yeah.
while it's moving through the production line,
Okay.
you've got a really powerful system.
So pretty complex.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
But I guess that's the whole point.
Right.
To catch any problems before they get out of control.
Yeah, you don't want any surprises.
Exactly.
But especially when you're dealing with something like extracting a specific cannabinoid
Right.
for a medicine.
Yeah.
With PET, you can actually see the concentration of that cannabinoid
Okay.
the whole time.
Oh, wow.
And if it's not right, you can adjust it right then.
And that means less waste.
Adding
Less
in,
having to redo things.
it's way more efficient.
Yeah. And more cost effective.
Yeah, definitely.
It just makes sense.
It does.
So it's not just about saving money.
No, it's not.
It's also about making sure that each batch
It's about quality.
is exactly the right quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for industries like pharmaceuticals,
Yeah, they have really strict regulations.
where everything has to be perfect.
Absolutely.
So how does PAT help with that?
Well, in the world of cannabinoid and psychedelic manufacturing,
Okay.
where the regulations are still being figured out, showing you have good quality control is super important.
Yep.
Kate gives you the data to prove to regulators that your product is safe, consistent, and meets all rules.
Okay, so it's like a safety net.
Yeah.
But it also makes sure you don't have regulatory headaches.
That's a good way to think about it.
And speaking of headaches,
yeah.
I imagine those traditional methods of quality control
Those can be a nightmare.
where you only test at the end.
Yeah, what if something goes wrong?
Right. You just have to throw out
You could lose a ton of product.
a whole batch.
And money.
And time.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, that would be a huge headache.
Exactly.
But with PATE, you're catching those deviations
yeah, you're on top of it.
early on
So you can fix things as you go.
instead of having to react
Exactly.
after the fact.
It's much better that way.
It's much smarter.
Proactive instead of reactive.
It's like being proactive instead of reactive.
That's it.
I like that.
Me too.
So it's not just about monitoring,
It's about control.
but it's also about controlling the process.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that actually work in practice?
So
With this real-time data.
you've got sensors that are constantly feeding data
Okay.
into this really smart software program
Okay.
that analyzes the information in real time.
Okay.
And it's looking for anything that's not right.
Like,
Yeah, so
is it like
it's like a digital brain that's always watching.
constantly monitoring?
Yep.
And if something is off,
Right.
does an alarm go off?
It can,
Okay.
but it can also be a lot more sophisticated than that.
Oh, wow.
Like it can actually be programmed to
Oh, it's-
adjust the process automatically.
So like if the temperature...
yeah, like the temp, it's too high
Right.
or something,
Yeah.
it'll just adjust it.
It fixes it before it even becomes a problem.
So it's like a,
It's like a self-driving car.
yeah,
It's always making tiny adjustments.
to stay on course.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's a good analogy. So PAT isn't just about monitoring.
Right.
It's like a safety net and autopilot all in one.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
It's pretty incredible.
It is pretty amazing technology.
And this level of automation.
Yeah, it not only makes things more efficient
So you're improving efficiency.
and consistent,
But it also reduces the chance of human error.
which is
Yeah.
hugely important
Especially
when you're talking about products that can
when you're talking about medicine.
impact people's health.
Yeah, you want to be as careful as possible.
You want to take out
Minimize the risk.
as much variability and risk
Absolutely.
as possible.
That's why PAT is becoming so important for
Doc-
natural products like cannabinoids and psychedelics.
Oh, it's like
It gives you a level of precision and control
it brings
that you just couldn't get before.
that precision of the lab
Exactly.
to nature.
It's bringing science and nature together.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
it's very cool. So you've definitely shown how PT is changing things.
It's a game changer.
But
It-
I know some people might be thinking,
What are they thinking?
how much does all this cost?
Oh, yeah.
All this technology.
It's not cheap.
It can't be cheap.
You're right. It does cost money to get started.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the long term.
Okay.
When you factor in all the money you're going to save,
Like from less waste.
to less waste,
Oh, really?
increased efficiency,
And more efficient.
keeping the regulators happy.
Yeah, and not having those regulatory headaches.
Exactly.
It probably pays for itself pretty quickly,
Yeah, it often does,
especially for companies
especially in industries with lots of regulations.
that are in those
Yeah, where messing up can cost you a fortune.
highly regulated industries
Exactly.
where the cost of non-compliance can be
astronomical.
astronomical.
Yeah,
So it's not just about the upfront cost.
it's about the big picture.
It's about the big picture.
Thinking long term.
You got to think long term.
Yep.
And see all the savings.
Exactly.
That's going to come down the line.
You got it.
Okay, so we've seen that PAT can save you money
And headaches.
and headaches.
It's a win-win.
But what about sustainability?
Oh, yeah, it's a good point.
We talked about reducing waste,
Mm-hmm.
but are there any other
Oh,
environmental benefits?
definitely.
Okay.
Well, PAT is all about making processes better
Okay.
and reducing waste.
Mhm.
So it just naturally fits in with sustainability.
So by reducing the amount of material you're throwing away
Yeah, and the energy you're using.
and energy and water,
And water.
PT is helping to make manufacturing
It's making it more environmentally friendly.
environmentally friendly.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
It is pretty cool.
It seems like PT is a win-win
It's a win for businesses
for business.
and a win for the planet.
And the planet.
Everybody wins.
I like that.
It's a good feeling.
This is all
It's exciting stuff.
incredibly fascinating.
It is.
But I know that
What do you know?
manufacturing natural products
Yeah.
comes with its own set of challenges.
It does.
Especially with those
Especially those botanicals.
variable botanicals.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
So how does PAT address those challenges?
That's a great question.
Like in the real world?
And it's something we're going to talk about more in the next part for deep dive.
So make sure to tune in for that.
Yeah, don't miss it.
We're going to be exploring how Pat tackles
We're going to get into the nitty-gritty.
that variability of botanical extracts.
How to make sure everything's consistent.
Yeah.
From the potency to the purity.
And I can't wait.
It's going to be good.
This is definitely an episode
You won't want to miss it.
you won't want to miss.
I'm excited.
All right, see you next time.
See you then. Okay, so we've talked about how Pat can do real-time quality control.
Right.
But now let's look at how it handles those natural products.
Okay.
You know how they can be so different from batch to batch?
Definitely. That's a big challenge.
It is.
Especially for cannabinoids and psychedelics.
Absolutely, because you're not working with some.
Right. It's not like a synthetic compound from a lab.
Exactly. You can't control how a plant grows.
So how do you even make sure your product is consistent?
Well, that's where that real-time monitoring comes in.
Okay, I'm listening.
Let's say you're extracting cannabinoids.
Okay.
And you want a specific amount of CBD in your final product with the old way of doing things.
Okay.
You test the plant at the beginning, process everything, and then test again at the end.
And hope for the best.
And hope for the best, exactly.
Fingers crossed.
But with PATI tools like NIR spectroscopy, you can track the CBD levels the entire time.
So you're always seeing how the extraction is doing.
Yeah, constant feedback.
That's got to be way more efficient.
It is.
So what happens if the NIR shows the CBD is too high or too low?
That's a good question.
Do you just scrap the whole batch?
Nope. That's where the control part of PATI comes in. You can connect these measurements to the equipment.
Got it.
And adjust things as you go.
Oh, wow.
So say the CBD is too low.
Okay.
You can tweak the solvent flow rate or the temperature.
Get more CBD out. So it's like a smart system.
You could say that.
That's making sure you get the right potency.
It's making sure everything is perfect.
No more guesswork.
And no more wasted effort.
I like that.
And this is good for psychedelics, too.
Right. Because with psychedelics,
you need to be super precise.
Even small changes.
Yeah, even tiny variations.
That's a big difference.
Absolutely, especially for the dose.
You definitely don't want any surprises there.
No, not with psychedelics.
But what about those other uses for Pat?
You mean like in food and cosmetics?
Yeah, where you have lots of natural ingredients.
Right, those can be pretty complex.
How does Pat help make sure those are consistent too?
Good question. Let's take essential oils, for example.
Okay, I use those all the time.
Yeah, they're used in so many things.
From cosmetics to aromatherapy.
And so many things can affect their quality.
Yeah, like the type of plant conditions.
With how you extract the oil.
Exactly. But Pete tools like gas chromatography can analyze the oil as it's being made.
Oh, wow.
So you see exactly what's in it.
Like a detailed fingerprint.
Yeah. And how much of each component.
So if you're making a perfume?
Yeah, or special blend for aromatherapy.
You can make sure the aroma is perfect.
You got it. Consistency is key.
And I guess it could also spot anything that shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Any impurities or contaminants?
So it's making sure the product is safe.
Safe and pure.
That's a big deal.
It is.
So Pete is really good at reducing those risks.
Definitely. It gives you that peace of mind.
But how does all this monitoring actually help businesses?
I'm glad you asked. We talked about saving money and waste.
Yeah.
But there's actual proof.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a study on a hops extraction facility.
Okay.
They used NIR spectroscopy and reduced their wasted batches by 15%.
Wow, 15%, that's a lot. It is, and it's because they could fix problems early on.
Before they had to throw anything out.
Exactly, which saves them money.
And those savings can really add up.
Especially for big companies.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
And it's not just about saving money.
Okay, what else?
Real-time monitoring can make production faster, too.
So you're doing things better and faster.
You got it, more efficient, and more product.
That's what every business wants.
It's a winning combination.
But there must be some challenges with implementing PP.
Oh, there definitely are.
Can't be that easy.
You need to plan carefully and have the right expertise.
So what kind of things do you need to do?
Well, first you have to choose the right tools.
Okay.
Then you need to calibrate them properly and train your staff to use them and understand the data.
So there's a bit of a learning curve.
There is, but there's help available.
Oh, good. So you're not alone.
Not at all. There are consultants and companies that can guide you through the whole thing.
Like from start to finish.
Exactly.
That's good to know.
And there are also organizations and research groups
that
offer training and resources.
So there's support out there.
There is. Lots of it.
That's reassuring.
It is. You don't have to figure it all out yourself.
But what about the FDA and other regulators?
Oh, yeah. What do they think about all this?
Are they on board with this technology?
More and more, they're seeing how valuable PP is.
So they see it as a good thing.
Yeah, especially for pharmaceuticals and food.
Makes sense.
They know it can improve quality control and provide more data to prove products are safe.
So they're not suspicious of it.
Not at all. In fact, some guidelines even specifically mention PT.
Wow, so they're encouraging it.
They are. They see the benefits.
That's great news.
It is. Things are definitely moving in the right direction.
So it seems like PT is here to stay.
It does, but we have to be realistic.
What do you mean?
There might be some concerns too.
Like what?
Well, anytime you have new technology,
Okay.
especially one that uses automation and data, people start to worry about jobs.
Right. Will robots take over?
Exactly, and what will happen to the workers.
So is that a valid concern?
It's definitely something to think about, but it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
While it's true, PD can automate some things,
Right.
it also creates new jobs.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not about replacing jobs.
It's about changing them.
Exactly. You need people who understand the technology
Right.
and can analyze all that data.
So you need new skills.
You got it. Things like data analytics and software development.
So we need to be training people for these new jobs.
Absolutely. We need to make sure people aren't left behind.
And that's not just a problem for companies.
It's a societal issue.
Yeah, we need to prepare for these changes.
It's going to take everyone working together.
Government, schools, businesses.
And make sure people have the right skills.
This is a really important point.
It is. We need to be prepared for the future.
So we've seen that PD is more than just technology.
It's about ethics, too.
We need to think about the implications.
Absolutely. We need to be responsible.
And make sure everyone benefits.
And that the risks are managed.
This has been a really interesting discussion.
It has. Lots to think about.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I think there's one more ethical consideration we should touch on.
Okay. What is it?
I think it's important to talk about the potential impact of pay IT on workers.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We talked about how pay could lead to new jobs.
In areas like data analysis.
But what about the people whose jobs might be automated?
That's a really important question.
Like, what happens to them?
We can't just ignore that.
Right. It's not just about creating shiny new jobs.
We have to make sure people aren't left behind.
So what can we do to help those workers?
Well, companies need to think about retraining programs.
Okay, so they can learn new skills?
Yeah, and transition into those new roles.
So it's about giving them a chance to adapt.
Absolutely. We can't just abandon those workers.
And I think this is bigger than just individual companies.
It's a societal issue.
As a society, we need to figure out how to prepare people,
Yeah, for these rapid changes in technology.
like automation and AI.
It's going to take all of us working together.
Yeah, industry, government, education,
Everyone has to play a role
to make sure people have the skills they
to
need.
thrive in this new world.
And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, giving people the tools to succeed.
So this conversation has shown us that PC is more than just technology.
It's about ethics, too.
We have to think about the consequences
And make sure we're using it responsibly.
to create a better future for everyone.
A future where everyone benefits.
That's a great point.
We have to be intentional about how we use this technology.
And think about the long-term impact.
Yeah, not just the short-term gains.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has been fascinating.
We've learned so much about peace
And the potential it has to transform industries.
and the ethical considerations that come with it.
It's been a great discussion.
I want to thank you for joining me
It's been a pleasure.
and for sharing your expertise.
I always enjoy talking about this stuff.
And to all our listeners,
Thanks for tuning in.
thank you for being here
We hope you learned something new.
and that we've inspired you to think about.
The ethical side of emerging technologies.
Because that's so important.
It is. We have to stay informed.
So until next time,
Keep exploring.
stay curious.
And keep asking those tough questions. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.